Hi, a very warm welcome to all the panelists and the participants who've joined the session and who are watching the session live on our social media platforms. Now, to quickly come to the topic of our discussion, exploring the growth potentials of Eastern India healthcare sector. So, what we would like to discuss in today's session and take insights from our eminent panelists is understanding the healthcare ecosystem in the Eastern and in the Northeastern India and positioning it relative to the other states, the investment opportunities that we have in the Eastern region, and identifying the prospects and the opportunities available for the government and the private sector to develop the healthcare system and the public perception of healthcare in Eastern India. I would like to take the privilege of introducing the eminent panelists of our session. It is an honor to introduce my first panelist, Mr. Rupak Barua, who is a name to reckon with in the field of healthcare services and administration in Eastern India.
Latest.
Carved a niche for himself with rare qualities like an insatiable urge to accept challenges, inherit talent to look beyond barriers, futuristic views to break new grounds in adopting new technologies, methods, and protocols. An accomplished management and healthcare professional with more than 30 years of experience and skills honed through taking up the most difficult challenges. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Moving on to our next speaker, Mr. Sumit Sinhal, a young enthusiast, strategy-driven personality. He founded KINS Healthcare, a multidisciplinary healthcare delivery group focusing on hospital, diagnostics, super specialty diabetes care, and home health in Siliguri. He is a postgraduate from ISB. His expertise lies in healthcare delivery, healthcare consulting, and business strategy. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Sumit. Moving on to the key player, the moderator of the session, Dr. Gaurav Sharma. Dr. Gaurav is a manager in Arthur D. Little India. ADL has been in the forefront of innovation since 1886. We are an acknowledged thought leader in linking strategy, innovation, and transformation in technology-intensive and converging industries. In India, ADL assists organizations with strong practical industry experience in key industries such as healthcare, automobile, energy, and utilities and private equity. Currently, Dr. Gaurav is assisting in building the healthcare consulting vertical of the organization. Prior to this, he was an associate director with PwC Healthcare and has been part of several projects in strategy, operations, and digital transformation. He has also worked with several hospitals in India, such as Max Healthcare, Medanta, and Apollo Hospitals. Now, I would like to put the stage off to Dr. Sharma to take the discussion forward.
Thanks, Momita, and a privilege to be part of this. So, without spending much more time into this, my first question to Dr. Barua. You have been there in providing healthcare in Eastern India for a really long time. Just for the benefit of audience, would you like to just detail on what is the current private and public healthcare delivery model that's been prevalent in Eastern India? And what is the expected transformation or acceleration or the endpoint that you see to it?
Thank you, Gaurav. I'm audible? Yeah. So, so far, Eastern India is concerned. I mean, first, we'd like to understand the potential of Bengal. Actually, the potential of Bengal and the whole Eastern India part, and what is the status where we stand right now in terms of public and the private healthcare delivery system. See, so far Bengal is concerned, let me understand a little bit. I mean, the Bengal first we can discuss about. The Bengal healthcare system is mostly, it was, if we are talking about 20 years back, 2 decades before, so that time they mostly dominated by this the private public sector, and the hospitals mostly a little bit of your trust hospital, charitable hospitals, that was dominating. I mean, I'm talking about 20-25 years back. So you will find many hospitals in Bengal. That's all. I mean, many are the large hospitals, those who are really doing good in Bengal, their charitable the trust hospital, because these are all linked with some of the organization, large group, large organization. They were taking this your healthcare as one of their CSR activities. So that was the dominating actually. After that, yes, of course, there are plenty number of good hospital has come up, infrastructure has grown, large players. I mean, the national players actually available. I mean, they started coming, and this large property they had installed, and yes, really it has grown up. So that is one part. So private care is growing right now in Bengal. It is started, I mean, 2 decades back, and it is going. Even if we are talking about this your public healthcare, yes, there are not many increase so far in urban area. Yes, of course, this government actually last 10 years, I mean, 2014 started, the new government actually, they started, planned and initiated, there are almost 42 super specialty healthcare. So 42 super specialty hospitals in the districts, and I mean, maybe 1 or 2 in the in the Kolkata area. So in terms of infrastructure, from this your private public sector, yes, it has increased. Though there is a, I'm talking about 42 number, but not many actually fully operational because of the manpower issue. So there is a doctor issue, paramedic issue, nursing issue. So because of this, your lack of human resources, this is many of these 42 super specialty hospitals not fully functional, maybe partly functional. That is all happening. In terms of private, yes, it's growing. Many of the private hospitals now, there's a lot of investment is taking place. We do actually one Bengal Global Business Summit the last April, and where we could see that there is a tremendous amount of response from the entrepreneur and a lot of private entrepreneur, and almost we are expecting that 5,000 to 5,500, both in terms of organic and inorganic sector. I mean, both in greenfield and the brownfield. Actually, there is a expected that there is a growth. I mean, the investment will happen in next coming 3 to 5 years. So the part of this year Bengal healthcare, if you see the transformation and all, particularly if we are talking about that 68.5% almost the population actually stays in this your rural areas, and 38 percentage actually in your urban area. But if you consider that whatever the shortage of this your primary health center, it's a huge primary health center shortage in the rural areas. See, primary health center is a basic part delivering this support, medical support, healthcare support. There is a huge shortage. Almost compared to other states, it is almost, if we are talking about Eastern India, Jharkhand, maybe Jharkhand and this Bengal, and if I compare a little bit, if you see the shortage of primary healthcare in terms of the standard number, if it comes 51% UP, then West Bengal is coming to 58%, Jharkhand is coming to 73%, and Andhra is coming to 60%. So in between, Bengal is there, that's a 58% shortage as per the standard format of the Bengal. So how many population-wise, how many healthcare, primary healthcare centers should be there in the system. Now, what is the outcome of that? Because of this almost 58-60% shortage of the primary health center, I mean, the patients from rural areas, they are coming to the district places for the secondary care, and because the secondary care also is not plenty available. So tertiary care is not available. So just from the secondary care, they are all flocking to this your tertiary care to the urban areas. I'm talking about the government medical colleges and all, whatever government infrastructure available in Calcutta. So ultimately, what is happening? All those patients, because of non-availability of infrastructure, private infrastructure in rural areas. So, and because of the shortage of the primary health center. So these are the primary health center patients going to this your secondary care. Secondary care is rushing to this your tertiary care. So the whole ecosystem, if you see, that is actually going haywire, because the secondary care patients actually overflowing this your tertiary care, and the tertiary care patients, those who really want support, in the government sector, they are rushing to this your private care. So this way it is happening. So is really required, maybe that we can discuss later on. But this is the at present scenario so far private and public healthcare delivery system is concerned in Bengal.
Definitely,
Right?
that was very helpful, Dr. Barua. So, if I can maybe condense what you say, you mean that there is definitely an access problem. There is a problem of providing the right kind of access. The resources that are available out there are maybe not enough as of moment, be it manpower, be it infrastructure, etc. And while the healthcare has grown, maybe a lot needs to be done. And my next question is to Sunit actually. So as Dr. Barua said that there has been an access problem. I mean, I have some data, and if we combine the eastern and the northeastern area, 17% of Indian population, if you look at the healthcare investment from government, around 13%. And Dr. Barua said about Bengal, somewhere around 72% of the total population of that area is rural, if we combine the northeastern states actually. Now, of course, there is a problem. We all identify that there is a problem. And rather than the problem, we identify that there is a potential. How do you see the next 10 years of this healthcare development in the eastern and the northeastern India?
Okay, thank you so much for that question, Mr. Gaurav. I think one concept that we will appreciate that is specific to a country like India is health is a state subject in our country. Unlike a lot of other countries wherein, and also importantly, the role or the support from the private sector to provide healthcare services for the citizens of the country is also a very important determinant for a country as large as India. If we see other mature markets and other countries, which are probably Western countries, most of the healthcare is provided by the government, and also not in a federal structure. Mostly the central government takes care of the entire system of providing healthcare. So having a mixed healthcare system, India in the entire country, also we can see varied kind of healthcare facilities available state-wise, primarily because we have a very decent understanding that health primarily is a state subject in the country. With that understanding and knowledge, if we are to see where we are at the moment in the healthcare infrastructure, availability, accessibility, care delivery of Eastern India, and if we are to do a crystal ball gazing of where do we see ourselves 5 years, 10 years down the line, I think the role of the government, and by Eastern India, it is not just about probably West Bengal. We are also looking at Northeast, wherein states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, and other 7 sister states of the Northeast are kind of considered here. So I think, again, there's this saying that goes that the government has no business to be in business. But at the same time, we totally understand that there is a public healthcare infrastructure that is available in the country, which obviously has its own bottlenecks. And time and again, both the central government and state government are trying their best to kind of provide the best quality of manpower, the infrastructure, support, care delivery. But ultimately, a lot of the burden is actually taken care of, or of service providing is that done by the private players. Right. So if we are to kind of draw a parlance of how we see a good health system, like we would say for a country like that of India, a very strong focus should be done on PPP, which is public-private partnership, because we understand that not a lot of the government will always have challenges relating to the amount of fund that can be infused, the amount of manpower that the government can mobilize, and the amount of as a payer, the amount of funds that the government can kind of provide. We have seen that a lot of European countries have adopted various PPP models, which is the public-private partnership models, which have been very successful, especially countries like Egypt, Greece, I think, where a lot of private players with very good policies by the state government, central government, have kind of drawn a mechanism wherein the private players are providing the best possible care across the spectrum of providing primary care, secondary care, tertiary care, and quaternary care. So I think we could kind of do a literature review of the success models that has happened, that is probably already been done in these places, and how is it that the bill could fit in our eastern region states also, and if the same could be adopted, we possibly feel that, yeah, we can have a good, robust health system in East India.
That's very helpful. And if I can again condense what you said, yeah, very different kind of model in India. And you think that PPP is the way to go, however we actually proceed in the area. And my next question, continuing from this, while we'll reach there, while we'll be a better system in Eastern and Northeastern India for, in the coming 10 years, uh, Dr. Bodo, how can we accelerate that? What are the levers that we really need to pull? One is definitely PPP. What are the other levers that we really need to pull, that we really need to concentrate, being the private healthcare providers, being the investors in healthcare, to actually accelerate this whole transformation? How can that 10-year period be reduced to a 5-year period or even more?
Yes, Gaurav, that is actually is a call of the day today. Let's say whatever the investment is required, both in terms of public, private and equity and the ownership. That's a two-part way. If we see the investment, which is extremely important today, that in Bengal there's a lot of investment is required. And if we see what is my experience, a day-to-day basis experience, that we don't see many of the whatever happened. I mean, maybe 20 years back, 15, 20 years back. After that, there is no fresh investment taking place in Bengal. Now, that is the government actually taken up. That is the 42 that super specialty hospitals that they have established. But due to shortage of manpower, they are not in a position to fully optimize that those infrastructure. So major issue here today, what I see, that one part of investment is required. So that investment in terms of maybe the greenfield project one, but as I mean, he was mentioning about this the government, whatever the PPP projects, the government establishment, we have some of the large district hospitals, some of the these 42 super specialty care. There is a tremendous amount PPP project we can take it forward. I mean, that is the only way. If we are talking about say greenfield investment and greenfield project, it will take some time. As you were saying that from 10 years we will have to bring it down to 5 or maybe little. So this both way we will have to function. One is the immediate action we need to take place, and one is the whatever the greenfield is a coming investment, coming new location, new space, and all it's going to happen. But if we see the immediate some attention is required, that is what we can do. That the small setup in the tier 1, tier 2 places that we can create, and PPP mode in the district, as I have mentioned you, almost 68% plus patients population is staying in the district. So district first, we'll have to explore the district, and through PPP, it's one of the major vehicles should be, and there is a plenty of opportunity in PPP. So and maybe a little bit of 50, 100 bedded that we can create. Now, one support we are getting, if we can do, I mean, for the investors, I'm saying that is, if we can start this your PPP one, the very fastest way we'll be able to establish. I mean, we'll be able to start operations of some of the non-effective infrastructure that we can create. But other parties also. So for the patient is concerned, you see, Bengal actually, I mean, it has launched 4 or 5 years back, but last year onwards, actually, it's a more active way. It is functional. There is a one scheme, maybe you are aware of the situation. One scheme actually the government is taking very aggressively. That is a Shastro Shati scheme. Shastro Shati scheme is our chief minister is in the dream that health for all, universal healthcare. That is her dream, and she is pushing this your Shastro Shati in a very aggressive way. Now, as I had mentioned you that 70% of the population, 70% population is in the district, and so the patients are there. There are maybe the Shastro Shati patient where the government is going to ready to spend in terms of the your expenses. So the one way, there's no question that the patient will come and will not pay, or the paying capacity is not there, because government is sufficiently taking care. The healthcare scheme is the 5 lakhs is the scheme, and for the is a floating. So for the family. So the patients there in the district, And the paying capacity of the patient is much better now because government will pay on behalf of the patient. So half is a little bit of the insurance and maximum is the assurance segment. So that is one area that immediately we can go for PPP mode, and there is an investment is required. And other part is in some of the places in the urban area also, because there is not many places actually so far yet has not been explored. So that also we can explore in kind of fresh investment and the fresh large super specialty care, mostly in terms of your oncology and the transplant segment. There is a little bit of gap. Still patients, huge number of patients going to other states from Bengal. So Bengal has got a tremendous opportunity. Now, if we are talking about the further investment for the generation, yes, of course, there are advantages also. One is the district is the advantage position, but the other part is the Northeast. There is one, the neighboring states like your Jharkhand, Bihar. Odisha is self-sufficient, so we don't get any patients from the Odisha, but from the Northeast, from Jharkhand, and to some extent from Bihar also we get patients. And there is a plenty number of patients is from the neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and as part of this your medical tourism. So that maybe we can discuss later. But yes, of course, there is a potential is huge, but investment is required. A lot of investment is required. And initially, to make it a very cut short time, we can start with the PPP project. There's a plenty PPP project available. We can approach government, many of the scheme that we can create, and we can reach out to the government. That is one part. And the fresh investment from the large hospitals or any private equity. So private finance can come and can invest. And really, Bengal, we can explore Bengal as a destination for healthcare.
Right. Thanks for that, Dr. Barua. Sunil, I actually pulling out a point from what you said about PPP, right? And what Dr. Barua talked about, both the assurance and the insurance mode. I mean, we see that, strategic purchasing of service by the government has a huge role, right? Any way that the private sector can assist the government out for this? Because we see that almost all the states out there have something or another. Swasthya Sathi, Ayushman Bharat, Atal Amrit Yojana, everything. There is availability. People have the access. I mean, we can talk about, the rural people not having services or not reaching the service, but money is maybe not something that really prevents them, right? Because they have the scheme. But we have also seen that, the utilization of these schemes has not been to maybe the satisfaction of both the private sector as well as the government. How to improve it? I mean, how to communicate to the person that, you have this service, how to entice the private players to utilize patients who are coming for these under these schemes, and how can government sweeten the deal? How to better the utilization as such?
See, better, you are asking me or? Okay, please. Yes, please.
Okay, no worries. So I think there are a couple of things that we have at hand here. One is the acceptance of private players towards these schemes that the government is offering. I think there is a huge divide with the packages, the rates. There's always a long drawn discussion about whether the schemes are affordable enough for private players to kind of adopt, to kind of accept patients at these rates. And there's always a consultation that is going on between the private players and both the state government and the central government, wherein the negotiations are on with regards to both the rates and the payment cycles for these schemes that we have individually from a state level and at the same time from the central level. Also, so this is where the role of NATHEALTH as an organization comes in as an advocacy body. I feel that may be because of its pan-India presence. For an individual hospital group or an individual hospital or a few players in the industry, it becomes almost impossible or difficult to kind of bring a common ground of discussion. But organizations can, like NATHEALTH and other related industry bodies, can bring about a situation wherein the private players, the government can come in and make sure that the best outcomes of the schemes are possibly both communicated to the public at large, and services are provided and proper reimbursements for the private players are made. Also, it is important for us to note here that West Bengal is one of the only states where Ayushman Bharat as a scheme is not adopted, which is again one of the issues that is of importance for all of us at general to understand. And if also we will appreciate the concept that there are multiple health schemes that are running in the country. For people, those who are central government employed, there is the CGHS scheme. For people, those who are ex-servicemen employed, there is the ECHS scheme. Then there is Ayushman Bharat, like sir already said, which is a central government scheme. And then there is Swasthya Sathi, which is a state government scheme. And then we also have ESI, wherein all employees working in private establishments have to enroll themselves with ESI. So I think the very concept of Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, which is ABDM, and also Ayushman Bharat as a scheme, which was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister, sir, was to bring all this under a single umbrella so that the payer side or the financing side of healthcare, which is also a very, very important aspect of entire healthcare service delivery conundrum, is kind of addressed. So I feel to accelerate the growth of healthcare in East India, it is very important. Like what Ayushman Bharat is already trying to do, what we need to do is probably as a state, allow Ayushman Bharat inside the state, also strengthen with consultation with organizations like NATHEALTH and others to kind of bring about a common platform for private players and governments to kind of come together. There is one use case that we can talk about here of accelerating growth of, I will just want to go back for a second to the previous question that we had. The use case is that of the state of Sikkim. If we see it is a small state, and the number of pharma companies, those who have established their manufacturing plants in Sikkim is huge. Big companies like Juventus, Lupin, Sun Pharmaceuticals, Torrent, because of the conducive manufacturing policy of the government for a state which has a population, entire state which has a population of about 7 to 8 lakhs only, huge pharma companies have set up their offices, manufacturing plants in the state. What that has done is it has attracted private investment. It has given a lot of HR or probably jobs to the local people of the state. And at the same time, that has generated a lot of revenue for the state. So to accelerate growth in West Bengal and more so other eastern states, if the government can come up with such policies of allowing private players by giving them the required SOPs, like if I am to mention a recent SOP that was, or a policy that was drawn by the government of West Bengal was, around 3-4 years back, we had the health, tea tourism, wherein 10% of the total tea garden in the North Bengal area could be converted into a hotel or a homestay for people from all across the country to come and enjoy as a tourist destination. Recently, the government of West Bengal has allowed 10% of those tea gardens to also be used for hospital purposes. So that is kind of catalyzing or providing impetus for private players to come into the industry, for the industry to come and provide health tourism in places like North Bengal. So this is just one such example. I think there are multiple such policy decisions, small and big, which probably state governments can take, which will kind of excite the private players to come for the investment, because we know for a healthcare to be good, it has to be accessible, affordable, and available. And private players, it will interest only if it makes financially viable as a project. So if the government can have decent policy frameworks in place, then I am sure, looking at the already available gap in the market, there is a huge potential in the Northeast that can possibly be explored.
That's very helpful, Sunit, and I totally agree to what you have said about the accessibility, affordability, and availability. And we can't really discount the role of government. But again, my next question is again another a bit of a difficult question maybe, but what everyone has been thinking about, and this is to Dr. Barua again. So I mean, government has been doing. I mean, government has always acted as in the best interest of its citizens, right? They have been trying to provide healthcare. They have been trying to build a conducive environment. NatHealth and organization of similar repute, they have always tried to build the bridges which on which the conversations between the private and the public healthcare can take place, right? Now, to bring about the investment, what is the role of private healthcare to add to that environment? How can private healthcare attract investment into that area, not only in building the the large tertiary care or quaternary care hospital, but also to push healthcare down the secondary level, the primary level in the medical education space, everything. Basically, what can healthcare, private healthcare groups to do to actually attract investment to transform the entire healthcare scenario in all these states, not only the state of West Bengal, but maybe all the eastern and northeastern states?
Yes, thanks, Gaurav. So one part that is, yes, if you are really looking for overall healthcare investment take place and overall transformation of healthcare system takes place in Bengal or the surrounding, the whole of Eastern India, there are so many things need to do. I mean, you need to understand first the gap. If we do the gap analysis of Bengal, that is the one is the infrastructure what we are talking about. If you talk about the maybe bed patient is to bed ratio, there is a we are far behind this other states. That is one part. Considering the population, the availability of bed. I mean, there is a this actually little bit this thing. Now, if you see that your if we consider the one part is that the shortage of manpower. We do not have sufficient number of medical colleges where we can produce the doctors. Yes, of late, last 7-10 years, actually, there are a couple of private medical institutes started coming up, because before this government, actually, never we had been allowed to come up the private. The medical education was not being given to the private end. So government used to dominate the whole private education part. That is one area. In terms of the nursing, there is one is the gap analysis. That's a till today. We are in Bengal. We are dependent on this year. 65 to 70% nurses actually from outside. Either we are depending on this northeast or the southern region. This is Kerala, Bangalore, and little bit of the north one. So that is heavily we are dependent, Odisha, Jharkhand, and all. But so far Bengal is concerned, we have not yet produced many of the colleges. Yes, of late, last 5-10 years, actually, there is a lot of transformation has taken place in terms of medical education or the paramedics. Many of the colleges now started coming up. Many of the nursing colleges, many of the medical institute has started coming up. But that is, you see, the number required, the gap in terms of your demand and the supply is still there is a huge gap. Though little bit it has been reduced, but still we see that there is a gap. That is one part. The major gap actually is the human resources. Now there is also the shortage. There is one is a talent as well. So talent, I'm talking about maybe very high profile, the doctors, those who will get involved with this, your very complex procedures, complex surgeries, transplants and all. That also, yes, really there is a need in Bengal, that kind of changes. So in Bengal, what we see, that is the one is the human resources, that is a shortfall. So that really we need to work out. More colleges, more institutes should come up. Education system will have to push. Though the government is doing, but the private, until and unless private is pushing, the government alone will not be able to do that. So more of the investment should come up in the medical colleges and all. There is a plenty space is available. So private sector can invest in the education area. One is the education also in the PPP form, that education can come up. There are government is also giving some of their infrastructure like your hospitals. They are giving the district hospitals, and you can form the medical college. You don't need to come up with the hospital, because every medical college need a sufficient number of bedded hospital. So that bed is not required, because the hospital will be given by the government. So you can tag with any of the district hospital, where the large district hospital, 500, 600, 700 bedded hospitals can be tagged with some of the medical colleges. So that is also one proposal from the government side. One or two already started. Some of the large group actually, they have already started the project. So so in education, there is a lot of PPP projects can be done. So that is one opportunity. The private sector, that's a huge opportunity in terms of the healthcare sector, and the hospitals and all. And the other sector also, if you are talking about improving the whole ecosystem of the healthcare, actually, there is a lot of as Sumit was mentioning, that's your Sikkim, a small place, but so many pharma companies actually reaching out to those places. Maybe there is a lot of advocacy is required. So NATHEALTH can play a major role in that segment. But there is a huge opportunity in Bengal, in this Northeast. That is this major kind of a pharma companies can come up. Some kind of a Ayush company, some kind of Ayurvedic companies can come up, and also some device companies. So in Bengal, there is a huge opportunity population-wise, but for each and every aspect, we dependent on these others. Yes, some MSMEs are there, some mid small sector arrangement is there, but the large device manufacturing companies and all is a lack there. So it's no pharma companies, very limited number of pharma companies we have here, limited number of your medical productions. I mean the device and all, maybe some equipments, hand instruments, many things we can do here. Some of the large companies, they can have some of their units over there they can install. So overall, if we see the growth, that NATHEALTH can play a major role, as Sumit was mentioning, in terms of advocacy. There's a lot of policy changes is required, because maybe government is not having that kind of a policy changes in terms of manufacturing and all. So that is one good opportunity, good space is available, and private companies, private investors can look for Bengal as a destination. Maybe through this, your NATHEALTH can play a major role.
Right. That's very helpful, Dr. Barua. And again, I would like to redirect this question to Sunit. How do you think, what's the role of private sector to actually help government in attracting investment? Not only in, building hospitals, again, maybe hospitals are just one part of the ecosystem, but everywhere, medical education, manufacturing, as a whole, the capability development of the entire sector.
So just a small fact there, like very rightly, Mr. Barua mentioned that the availability of HR is not there in the state, and most of the human resource, both clinical and non-clinical, is attracted from the other states in the country. There's a small data that of a total of close to 583 medical colleges that are there in the country, only about 20 to 22 of them are in the state of West Bengal. So as a percentage, if we see, West Bengal is the 4th largest state in the country, but as a percentage of total medical education that is available, it is about 4.4% of the total availability that is there in the country. So obviously we understand that there has not been too much of an impetus and thrust towards creating the right kind of HR pool, made the doctors, nurses, paramedical staff, non-clinical staff, polytechnic colleges that would possibly be required. So there is a huge scope of investment in the state, because any kind of HR or human resource that is generated will be absorbed within the state. That is one thing that is for sure. So this opportunity lies between the private players to kind of take advantage of. Also, we see there's a lot of funding that is coming into the healthcare space now in the private equity space. So looking at the opportunity, or looking at the gap of availability and the access to the market that is there, the number of patients, because it goes without saying that private players are there for profit, and it would only interest them if it would make financial sense, with obviously with a clean focus and a very deep focus of humanitarian services to the people they serve. So a lot of things that Mr. Barua also mentioned briefly was that of medtech devices. We see states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, where a lot of medical devices. As a matter of fact, if I am not mistaken, there is an investment of about 4,500 crores which General Electric had done to assemble its CT scan machines in a place near Bangalore. So the right kind of infrastructure, if the policy is there, then possibly a lot of medtech devices could possibly be come to India and into Northeast. Also, the proximity that this part of the country has with neighboring countries, like we are adjoined with Bangladesh, Nepal, other countries that are adjoining our states and these other neighboring states. So a lot of medtech devices can possibly come here, both for the reasons that they could get access to the markets which are possibly there adjoining to the geographical regions that we are present here, and also for the kind of virginity that this land has, and with the right kind of policy in place by the government, it will definitely attract a lot of private players, both in the provider side, in the medtech side, maybe in the insurance space, and other allied services in the healthcare ecosystem.
That's very helpful. Dr. Barua, again, continuing on the same note, and Sunit mentioned maybe the accessibility, etc., are a problem. And, the entire Eastern and Northeastern India, every state is different, every region is different. There are pockets of population, a great distance between two pockets of population, maybe, and some really, really crowded spaces, and then really sparse spaces. How do you see the role of, digital in not only providing accessibility but also maybe making healthcare a lot affordable, making hospitals maybe not a solution in all the states, in all the regions, but do you see the role of digital in making this accessibility and affordability better in the area?
It's a very, Gautam, it's a very pertinent question today. I mean, as where the technology actually now healthcare, we can see that it's a technology-driven sector. Yes, of course, technology has been taken place in many of the verticals, but healthcare actually per se is a lot of opportunities there actually. In terms of your delivering your quality healthcare and considering that we have a little bit shortage of the manpower, and there's a gap. And the manpower gap, whatever Sunit actually had given this your nice statistics that what is the 4.2% or 1% actually the medical institutions available this year. So that's a huge shortage of manpower. One way we are talking about, because ultimately hospital will run by the technical team, medical team. So one way we see that there is a shortage of manpower, and the other way we are talking about developing infrastructure. So more of infrastructure we are talking about, we are reaching out to the tier 1, tier 2 places. So in these circumstances, one of the major vehicles where we can take help of this is the digital one. Now, because we see there is a huge shortage of doctors and nurses actually, particularly if I talk about the doctors, nurses, so yes, okay, we can compensate from other sources that telemedicine can play a major role. Many of our hospitals also, we are reaching out to the tier 1, tier 2 places through only the telemedicine, because otherwise we'll not be able to support the community with this proper manpower. So that is one area we are talking about. And even we have started also talking about this digital part also we are talking about in this year, the neighboring countries as well. We are reaching out to the neighboring countries to digital media only in terms of the branding, in terms of marketing, and in terms of extending support services as well. Once they are coming for investigation for the treatment, once they go back, we all give support through this your telemedicine or through the digital media. In terms of your, if we are talking about the digital part, yes, of course, most of the hospitals actually come now well equipped, because we, considering the shortage of manpower, we delivering the accurate, specific kind of your medical services, clinical services. We are introducing a lot of digital support. Actually, we are taking a lot of digital support. Almost all our activities, day-to-day activities, the clinical activities, non-clinical activities, we are trying to adopt as much of digital initiatives. So without digital, we'll not be able to most of the hospitals in Bengal or in other places, particularly rural, whenever we are looking for connecting to the rural community, delivering this some kind of a medical support, we are taking digital support in terms of this e-ICU and all we are creating right now, because ICU is such a subject where there is a doctors, particularly in the district level, is a very few doctors are available. So we are taking up those nursing homes, little bit of large nursing home, whether they have limited number of critical care beds, and we are taking up those nursing homes. We are connecting to this e-ICU. We are creating we have installed this e-ICU platform, and we are managing hundreds of beds actually through this e-ICU. So digital actually playing a major role. We are reaching out through digital in spite of our shortage of manpower. There is the only way, only confidence what we have right now. There is a through digital. There are many other ways you can extend support to the community, to the area where healthcare is not available. As healthcare, we are talking about accessibility and affordability as well. So there, yes, digital is the only way we can reach out. And as I think many of the hospitals started doing, and the Bengal also is really working on the digital part to reach out to the greater community.
That's very helpful, Dr. Barua. Sunit, continuing on that note, how can, while private sector can develop all the digital tools, etc., but again, reaching out down to the patient is always a challenge. I mean, not every person who's sitting in the rural area would be carrying a smartphone to access services, right? And many times they might not know. Is there a way for the private sector to maybe piggyback on the public sector, which maybe has a better penetration in the area, to actually provide digital services where, you know, they might not be available, or public sector might just have a building or basic infrastructure, not enough, you know, expertise around? So how do you think that marriage would happen? How do you think that would actually look like?
So I think that's a wonderful question, Dr. Gaurav, and I am a big enthusiast of discussing about the digital transformations in healthcare. And I truly feel that if we are to solve the problems that Indian healthcare faces, it is got to be done only through technology acting as an enabler through digital health. So there are multiple use cases wherein artificial intelligence and machine learning is kind of helping solve these problems. And I'll come to what you intended to ask is how we can kind of intertwine the government machinery with the private technical know-how or the knowledge space and marry it with digitally so that the problem of healthcare could be solved. But again, going back to the concept of trying to solve the problem of available, accessible, and affordable with the help of digital. We understand that there is a dearth of doctors. So those doctors can be made available in the rural hinterland with the help of digital. Accessible, yes. Infrastructure is not accessible. That physical infrastructure could possibly be made available with the help of digital. And affordable, obviously we know, India being a $3 trillion economy and 65% of the contribution coming from agriculture alone, more than half the population is in the hinterland of India. So we obviously, if the problems of the healthcare of the country has to be solved, like you just mentioned, how do we reach out to the Indian hinterland? How do we reach out to the smaller towns, the villages, the tehsils, or the local areas where probably the Mr. Barua said, that small villages where probably 100 families, 200 families are living, and kind of do that. And there is the concept of marrying the PHCs or the public health systems with the kind of private players that are there in the industry that can possibly help them. Now, there are a lot of use cases here. One of them, I would like to take an example, is that of Forus Healthcare. If we see that, if we are aware of that company, they have handheld devices to kind of screen patients for any kind of eye ailments. Doctors are sitting based out of Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Bombay, other big metro tier 1 cities. And these small handheld devices are given to Anganwadi workers, Asha workers, and they go from home to home, villages to villages, just to capture a small image of the retina or the fundus of a patient. And the entire village is screened, and doctors based out of vitreoretina surgeons and other ophthalmologists all across these places are possibly screening these patients. If found to be facing from some kind of retina detachment or some kind of a retinal problem or facing a cataract or glaucoma, are being referred to higher centers. There are other very pertinent devices for screening. So we understand that preventive health and curative health is something which is preventive health is equally important when it comes to using digital. And if there are a lot of screening devices that a lot of startups and other good medical devices company have developed, so making these medical devices available in this rural hinterland of the country, and with the help of digital, the transfer of images, the screening for breast cancer, the screening for cervical cancer, the screening for any kind of ECG to look for any kind of heart ailments, is actually becoming very, very easier. So what I feel is, if a good, like there's a lot of understanding about Startup India. There's a lot of understanding about how now National Digital Health Mission is being adopted, wherein we are trying to get all the data of every single individual linked with Aadhaar and make sure that all the digital data is at one place. So if these startups as a policy by some of the state governments which have already done this and in a very successfully, if the eastern region states also kind of reach out to the startups looking at the use cases that has already taken place in other states of the west or of the South India or the Central India, and if they can, especially not only from a curative space but from a preventive space, maybe for screening of major NCDs, that we say non-communicable diseases, if we can get into the screening of these non-communicable diseases, then I think a lot of burden on both private and public healthcare with regards to curative healthcare can be solved with the help of digital services that we can provide. And that is obviously when the private and the public players come together to do this. Yeah.
Right. So that has been very helpful. So as we come towards literally the end of our hour, Dr. Barua, just wanted to ask both of you, and maybe Dr. Barua can take up the mantle first. What are the maybe one message to the private sector, one message to the investor, and one message to the government that you might have to improve the healthcare? While we have had a detailed conversation around it, what are the three key messages that you would want to give, which would maybe change a lot in the healthcare scenario of the states?
So if I talk about this in a very short way, this is the message for this year. First, if we are talking about the private investors, we can only say that Bengal is really a gold mine now. Bengal and the Eastern India I'm talking about, but Bengal, I mean, focusing Bengal, I should say this is a gold mine actually. This is unexplored. There is a huge opportunity. 25% of the glass actually is a full, and 75% is empty. So you can see the potential of this place as an ecosystem, both, I mean, not talking about the healthcare, but all the surrounding of the healthcare, what are the services is required, that's a huge opportunity. So that's a required. If you see this, Bengal is not, you should consider as a Bengal as a 10 crore population. Yes, of course, Bengal is a 10 crore population. That is a district, is a rural, is almost 6.5 crore, and urban. But if you consider the population, actually, this is the Northeast and the neighboring countries. You see the average 5,000 patient actually is people ask for the medical tourism. If you are talking about 5,000 people actually look for your medical visa as a whole, I'm talking about. But actually, medical visa we are talking about. But out of the 5,000, almost 60% actually is a Bangladeshi patients. They are looking for medical visa, and they are all coming to Bengal because of the lack of infrastructure. They are flying to some other places. So that is so it's not that I'm talking about 5,000 per day. So you can see what is it. So last year almost we could see there is around 22 lakhs patient actually as a flown to this Bangladeshi patients actually is I mean, I'm sorry, not last year actually, it is before the COVID area. After COVID, there is a little bit of number gone down, but there is a huge opportunity. So Bangladeshi, there is I don't see that still they will continue with this kind of a medical infrastructure. There is a tremendous amount of Bangladesh patients, and also Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar. These are the 4 state country actually is dependent on this Bengal. So that is also we can see. Because of the lack of infrastructure, they are going to some other places, but we can attract all the northeastern patients because of the lack of facility. They are flying to other places. So combining of these 3 areas, combining of the potential Bengal, combining of these 3 other neighboring places, there is a huge opportunity in terms of your private investors to invest in this Bengal in various field actually. Not only in the infrastructure segment, but the medical education, manufacturing, everywhere there is a scope. So far the government is concerned, there's one message is only that they need a lot of changes in their policies as well. So they will have to sit down, they will have to understand the demand and supply gap, where the demand is there, and how can we make better availability of the services that we need to change in the medical education, in the manufacturing devices. There is a lot of policy decision need to take. And in the PPP model also, there is a lot of policy decision need to change. So these are the government should only be a little bit proactive way. Yes, government is active and they are trying to do many things in terms of delivering healthcare to the patients. So that's why they have started with Swasthya Sati and all. But only financing is not the issue. Creating this the ecosystem, creating this infrastructure, government will have to be little bit changes in this policies, decision making, fast decision making, and things will take place.
Thanks, Dr. Barua. Sunit, again, the same question. So the three key messages for the government, the private sector, and the investors.
Yeah, so for the government, again, 3 Ps, possibly one advice or probably suggestion that I have for the government is the government can play 3 primary roles, that of a payer, that of a provider, and that of a policymaker. I think, again, the government has no business to be in business. They don't need to be the providers. If they can get the right policy in place, and if they can be a decent payer for people those who cannot afford in the state, whatever state it might be, and if these 2 Ps can be addressed, then the providers are definitely going to jump into this space. East India is the place probably that has been neglected for decades now, and it is the place possibly to look to now. To the providers, yes, if we really want to heal in India, come to East India. It is for all the big players, small players, all kind of players that are there. The same message for the investors. If you want to invest in India, you should invest in East India. Also, a small message for all the patients. Gone are the days when we had to go to Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, or probably other places. Any services that we would possibly search for good medical advice or good medical treatment in any part of the country is now possible in East India. Believe in your state, believe in your East India, and we are sure that we can heal in East India.
That's very, very helpful, Sunit. And if I condense the entire conversation in maybe 3-4 lines, maybe we have the potential in Eastern India. A lot of development has taken place. A lot can actually take place. It's now up to both the private sector and the government to maybe sit together across the table, have the conversation. Investment would flow with the right regulatory support, with the right conducive political environment, and supportive environment towards investment. And the private sector in that area is developed well enough that they can take up any challenge and utilize the investment in the right way to transform healthcare in the Eastern India. That's very, very helpful to both the speakers. And with this, I pass on to Momita for the next course of events.
Thank you so much. The discussion couldn't have been better and more more interesting. It was wonderful to have you all here, Mr. Barua, Mr. Sumit, and Dr. Sharma. Dr. Sharma, thank you so much for putting some interesting topics, and all of you all sharing such interesting insights. I would also like to thank all of you on behalf of the entire NATHEALTH team. Would like to thank all the participants who have been watching the session live on our social media handles. Big thanks to our PR team, Avian, and our communication partner, HealthBiz, for their constant support, without whom we could not have put this up. My special thanks to Anvesha and Siddhartha for their immense support and the motivation for which we can do such seminars. In case we are unable to answer any questions today, I would really ask the team or whoever is there online, they can get back to us and we can get the questions answered from our speakers and the rest of any of the health industry leaders in the East. We will again be back with another interesting discussion throwing light on any other aspect of the healthcare. This video will be live on our Facebook and YouTube channel, and we will be posting it shortly on our social media handles. With this, we would like to end today's session, and we promise to come back with another interesting session very soon. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Barua. Thank you, Mr. Sumit, and thank you, Dr. Sharma. It was really very interesting, thoughtful insights.